Welcome to this series on how law is made in the United Kingdom. This series is of course going to look at the parliamentary stages of a bill, and that does play an important role in the process. But there's a lot that goes on before, and we'll be looking at that in the first couple of videos, and quite a bit that goes on after a bill has actually got its royal assent and been passed. So I'm hoping that there'll be about 12 videos in this series, and we will go through the various stages that a legislative proposal goes through. Now, I'm using the term legislative proposal. It has no official meaning whatsoever. There are certain things like bills and Acts of Parliament and explanatory notes which have a specific meaning. But legislative process is just a general word that I'm using. It could be a single idea or it could be a whole bill. The most important thing to remember is that the government has all the cards to play. A legislative proposal really doesn't stand much chance of making it to law unless it's got government support. If you look at the end of every session at the number of bills that have been passed, you will see that they are overwhelmingly government bills. And of course, if it's your idea that you want to turn into law, the best way of doing it is to get it adopted by the government, put into one of their bills. There are of course other ways. There is a process known as private members' bills, but even that requires some kind of government support. Not the active support that a government bill requires, but the tacit support, because private members' bills can very easily be killed off. And if we have a look at the Friday process, we'll see that very often bills are talked out and eventually objected to, and it's very easy and often quite anonymous for the government to kill off a private member's bill. The reason for this is that the government has control over most of the time in the House of Commons. That is established in Standing Order number 14. Certain activities, opposition days, private members' bills days, are set aside, but they are limited in number, and apart from those exceptions, the government controls the time. The other thing that the government, of course, has is a majority, and it has its whips to ensure that it gets its business through. Next thing to remember is that the process can actually take a long time. Now, some things can happen very quickly. An example would be the Dangerous Dogs Act, where there was an outcry at attacks that children were suffering from some of these dogs. There was a big media campaign. Something needed to be done, and legislation was passed through in a couple of days. Well, that's not the norm. Normally ideas percolate for a long time before they even get anywhere near being considered for legislation. And we look at that long period of time. Where do ideas come from? Well, they can come from anywhere. They can come from MPs. I know that when I was a candidate, a few times I was asked, if you had the opportunity to pass just one bill, what would it be? And I think everyone who stands for Parliament has got at least one, if not a number of ideas that they would like to push forward. It could be a minister who, in a department, has a passion for a particular idea and will push it through. It can come from constituents meeting their MPs, expressing concerns, showing how the law is currently failing them. It could be from trade associations, from trade unions, from professional bodies, all pointing out some of the problems with the existing law and ideas that are needed to make things better. It could be a press campaign, it could be a campaign that's come from the grassroots. All of these ideas are forward, but only a few of them will make it to law, because the key thing is that you need to get your idea on the agenda. And that's what the second video in this series will look at, how ideas get on that agenda and how they progress to the point where they appear in a bill that is presented to one of the two houses. Thank you.